Okay, today I wanted to talk about the rubric for the argument FRQ. It is question 3, and you can Google the AP English Language and Composition rubric. It's on it's in public domain. Scroll down to the question 3 argument. Let's see if I can zoom in here. First thing is the thesis. You can get 1 point for the thesis. I think that is probably the easiest of the points. There are 6 available, okay? And you want to make sure it's clear. I always tell my students, make sure you make it nuanced and make sure that your claim is crystal clear, which side you're on, okay? I'm going to use one example today with artifice. And I don't know if you remember the prompt artifice. Is it the most essential skill? So I'm going to argue, yes, it's the most essential. Sadly, it's the most essential skill today. And then I'm going to demonstrate that by giving evidence of the book 1984 and comparing that to Putin and Kim, the Russian and Korean leaders. And then I'm going to also talk about President Trump successfully using artifice in the 2016 election, okay, whether you love him or hate him. So that's 1 point. I always tell them, try to put that at the end of your first paragraph and then preview your evidence. The next category is evidence and commentary. Okay, it says row B, evidence and commentary. This is a 4-point opportunity. So this is the bread and butter of the essay. I tell my students, the stronger your evidence, the stronger your argument. And the inverse is true as well. So the weaker my evidence, okay, the weaker my argument. So you get 1 here, provides evidence that's mostly general. I had maybe 1 kid do this yesterday, and it was kind of just like general, vague evidence relating to the topic. I gave 3 different prompts for 3 different classes to try to mix it up. And then I want to show those prompts to the other classes. So if you're like in my class and you took period 1 prompt, then I'm going to show you the period 3 prompts and the period 4 prompt. Because I think for all of us, the more prompts we look at and sort of brainstorm and analyze, the more prepared we'll be when we take the exam in May. 2 points. 2 points is not bad. Okay, it's not horrible. It's providing some specific relevant evidence. So maybe you have like 1 good example of artifice. Maybe you talked about President Trump, but then the rest of your evidence was sort of generic or vague. And there's a spot here for commentary. So, how strong is the line of reasoning? Okay, or is the line of reasoning a little bit faulty? Okay, so maybe you said artifice is the most essential skill, but then you had some contradictions in your body of your essay. So you want to make sure that you don't contradict yourself. And then 3 points. If you look over here, 3 is solid. So if you're getting 1 for the thesis and then you're getting 3 for evidence and commentary, that's a 4-point essay. I tell my students, and I told them for the first essay, our goal is a 4 or higher. Okay, so a 4 or higher is solid. If you score a 4 or higher on all 3 essays and you do well in the multiple choice, you're looking good. You can get a 4 on the exam. So 3 provides specific evidence to support all claims in a lines of reasoning. So let's say I have specific evidence on this artifice prompt. I talk about, here's the artifice prompt if you forgot. It's from 2017. Most essential skill is artifice. Use appropriate specific evidence to illustrate and develop your position. So I talk specifically about how Big Brother successfully used artifice in 1984, okay, to demonstrate that Oceania is perfect, okay? Well, of course we're winning the war. Of course we have plenty of chocolate and food and steel. Everyone's got a full belly here in Oceania. Things are perfect. And then I would bridge that to President Kim. He's saying the same thing. Of course, everything is great in North Korea. North Korea is so much better than South Korea. The conditions are better. Okay, the environment is better. Our government is better. The people have better opportunities and equal rights. Okay, so which none of that is true, sadly. Okay. And then I would bridge that to maybe talk about President Putin and how he uses artifice, and he uses the media to brand himself and to brand Russia as the country that, we deserve that land in the Ukraine. We deserve this specific territory in the Ukraine. It is our God-given right. Okay, so, and isn't it funny how all of his critics somehow accidentally die of a plane crash? Must have been something wrong with the jet engine. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to use, specific evidence. So I go back to the rubric and I take it one step further. 4 over here provides specific evidence to support all claims, and the commentary consistently explains how the evidence supports a line of reasoning. So for my class, I would say, hey, if you got a 5, then you had really solid evidence and you had a really solid line of reasoning. If you got a 4, that means you probably got 1 plus 3 for evidence and commentary. Your evidence was good, but maybe it wasn't fully developed as strongly. Okay, so here's may fail to integrate some evidence or fail to support a key claim. Okay, this one is, it's very adequate evidence, clearly explained. Okay, multiple supporting claims. So those are subclaims. So it's really beefed up with the evidence and commentary. So maybe in my artifice example, I talked about 1984 and Big Brother and Oceania, and then I tied that to Kim and Putin, and I had a robust paragraph. Maybe I just watched the news the night before about the war in the Ukraine and how they're showing these factories that used to make bread in Russia, and now they're making drones, right? This is something I actually saw the other day. So, and then I bridge that to President Trump, okay? And whether you like him or you hate him, how he branded himself as this conservative and then rallied with the mega brand, and it worked, okay? I was watching CNN and all these news stations for months, and they were saying Hillary's going to win, Hillary's going to win, and she didn't. So that's the rubric in a nutshell for the thesis and the evidence and commentary. The last thing is sophistication. And I'm not going to go too much in depth on this because I do have a separate video about sophistication specifically. But for the argument especially, you need to have either a really sophisticated line of thought, okay, if you look at the wording, and it needs to be nuanced. And that's why I talk about using CNC in my classes. So conceding and countering, because if I'm conceding and countering, I'm demonstrating nuance. I'm demonstrating that there's tension between this idea of artifice. And yes, you can use it to an extent and it'll get you so far, but it will also limit you in the end, because eventually you're going to be exposed as like, okay, maybe things aren't so great in North Korea. Okay, we have these defectors coming across the border, the DMZ, and they're like, people are starving. Okay, our army doesn't have enough food. The UN gives us food, and then it goes to the army. So demonstrating that artifice is one skill, but authenticity, honesty, Honest Abe and Lincoln, and that sort of branding, whether if it's true and it's genuine, can also be effective. So it needs to be stylistically vivid and persuasive. So some people, I wrote on their paper yesterday, like, be more vivid with your evidence. The evidence was there, but then it was like, okay, it kind of tailored off and it wasn't as specific or persuasive. So this person is using many effective rhetorical choices. So maybe they have their own metaphor, their own device of parallelism, all these things that you're going to learn in AP English. So that is the rubric in a nutshell. The goal, I think, again, is a 4 or 5 is very solid for the argument. And if you remember nothing else from this long drawn out video, the stronger your evidence, the stronger your argument. If your evidence is so-so,